Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Extra Point. I'm your host, Roland Rainey, CEO of R2 Sports Management. And once again, I am joined with my esteemed colleagues, professional scouts. We got Jeremy Coleman coming out of Indiana. How's the day going, Jeremy?
Doing it, Ron.
Good deal. And as always, out of Jersey, we have him back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Robert Parker.
Thanks for having me back, Roland. How's it going?
It's going well, man. Glad to have you on. And coming out of the great state of New York, we got Justice Gordon. Justice, how we living today?
I'm doing great, man. Just glad to be back with you guys.
Hey, man, we're glad to have all you and everyone else. I'm beyond excited. I can't believe it already. This is episode 10 of The Extra Point. And when I look back on how this got started and where we are currently at, I'm beyond ecstatic. You know, I also want to give a great shout out to some of our guests that we've had on to bring their expertise to The Extra Point. I am beyond excited. But for this special episode, episode 10, I am really excited because in today's episode, we have two special guests. First guest, Division II football player, Tevin Darnell. So we are looking forward to having Tevin on the show here shortly. And coming out of Louisiana, a.k.a. The Boot, radio host of E504, Eric Jones. We will have him on the show later this afternoon. I'm beyond excited. What a great way to kick off episode 10. We will get after it. And guys, we've talked about the current state of the NFL. But I will tell you, I think the biggest thing right now is really the current state of the NCAA. Once again, you know, conferences trying to figure out how they want to move along here. We got some that are just trekking along and saying, hey, we're having a season, even though some of them are in some hot spots in the country. And then we have others who are basically just trying to figure out how they want to move along. Going out to Justice, what's your take on the current status here?
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me if it makes sense, you know, for the SEC to have a football season, you know, when that region is one of the probably the worst region in terms of COVID-19 cases, in terms of a safety perspective, I mean, the answer is no. The reality is, you know, the colleges down there, they want to play, the players want to play. You know, I'm never gonna knock a player for wanting to take the field and improve his draft stock. You know, but you know, at the same time, the reality is, you know, the NBA is probably the only organization who has found a way to make this work with the bubble. I mean, they're fortunate enough because they don't have, you know, they have less teams than other organizations. But, you know, in terms of football, you know, I just think about, you know, you got two teams, you know, coming to one stadium. You got two fan bases coming into one stadium. You know, even if they wear masks, you know, they're all bunched up together in seats. You know, it's a recipe for something bad to happen. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if several people the next day came out with testing positive. But, you know, like I said, I'm never going to knock a player for, you know, wanting to take the field and, you know, showing off what he can do and trying to improve his draft stock. So if the SEC wants to play, you know, I'm all for it. I mean, go ahead.
I hear you. It's a huge topic, and we're going to get into that a whole lot later also. But ladies and gentlemen, joining us here on The Extra Point, coming out of the great state of Colorado, is Tevin Darnell. Tevin, welcome to The Extra Point. How are we doing today?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Tevin, it is awesome to have you on. For the audience out there, Tevin Darnell is a defensive back who played with Colorado State University Pueblo. Phenomenal job, was with that team when they went on championship runs. Definitely did some phenomenal things with the organization, and he is currently on the path looking for his way to the NFL. Before we get started, Tevin, I want to take the opportunity for everyone who is chiming in and looking today. We have Tevin here with us, but also coming out of the great state of New York, we have Justice Gordon. Also coming out of New Jersey, we have Robert Parker. And coming out of Indiana, we have Jeremy Coleman, all professional scouts. And Tevin, you are joined with them today. So let's get it started right out of the back, Tevin. I was just asking Justice about his feelings about some of these different conferences having a season in the midst of COVID. I'm quite sure you're having your eyes peeled to the television watching this. What's your current take on whether or not a lot of these universities should move forward with a season or not? What's your take as a player?
Well, it's kind of hard to explain the exact words for everything. You want to keep everyone safe, but at the same time, it's important for the players to go out there and prove what they can do, and just get the experience they want to get from college football, even if they're not looking for something professional-wise. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to take into consideration, is that while they want to be safe and everything, they also want to keep that experience for the kids. And most of the people want to go to college just to do sports anyway. So it's a big thing for them. Big things for everybody that got to play college sports.
I hear you.
I just think it's something that people need to keep an eye on.
Okay. So, Tevin, as we are seeing a lot of these unique dynamics playing itself out in the NCAA, I think a lot of people are really keeping their eyes on players who are not staying for their last year because of COVID. They're coming out of school right now, declaring themselves eligible for the draft. What's your take on that? When you see players coming out for the draft, what's the impact potentially on the draft that's coming up? What's your thoughts?
Well, it's just that uncertainty. A lot of the people don't know what's going to happen with the college season. So, in their minds, maybe it'd be best for them, even if they don't think they're where they want to be with their draft stock, just to come out now, see what they can do now, just because, the uncertainty they won. And personally, I support them with it. They think that's the best idea, then, maybe they should do it, because no one really knows how this is going to turn out, even in just a couple months. There's not really a right answer for anything to say, so...
Well, you hit a great point there, Tevin, and that's the notion that there's a lot of uncertainty that's happening right now, and I think a lot of players are taking that into consideration. Let me swing this over to New Jersey. Robert, you've heard Tevin here speak about that. What's your take on this topic, Robert?
I think I definitely agree with Tevin. One of the key words he used was uncertainty. So when it comes to this year's draft, I think a lot of general managers and a lot of owners is going to have to make it a decision to say, hey, who are we going to draft? Are we going to draft off, potential, or are we going to draft off game film? So I think it's going to come, scouts like us and like others across the nation. A lot of, GMs, a lot of owners is going to have to lean on those lower level guys to grind tape and watch film and, to decide to say, hey, if this is this person worthy of a first round grade or is this person worthy of a late round grade? So I think everyone is in flux, and the uncertainty is affecting everyone, not only the athlete, but affecting everyone, from the front office personnel to even the people who, just in the facility day in and day out. So I think that uncertainty is one of the key words that, lingers on in regards to this whole pandemic that we're dealing with.
Well, hey, Robert, I think both, actually all three of us, Robert, Jeremy, and Justice, we can all attest to this. So when we were down at the East-West Shrine Bowl, and as we were on the sideline scouting, some of those players, and, I'll bring up a Freddie Swain, right? So he gets picked up by Seattle. He did a phenomenal job at the East-West Shrine Bowl. He got drafted, but yet there's a huge possibility he might not get to really showcase his skills or how he can fit into the system. So, Jeremy, how do you think that impacts a player like Freddie Swain?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, when you're a young guy like him, you need reps. So if you're not going to get those reps, it's how do you show that, I'm a good enough player to get drafted. He used the Shrine Bowl as an opportunity. He had a good week of practice, and he also had a very good game. And he caught a touchdown pass in that game and showed the ability to get open. So, I mean, on a limited scale there, he showed he had qualities that NFL teams liked, and Seattle was willing to draft him on that. So I think players have to use the most of their opportunity. I think players in colleges right now should, I think they should play if they get an opportunity, because the more chances they have to show what they can do, I think that's the best thing for them. If the season doesn't last the whole time, that's one thing. Then they've put what they can out there, on their time. But I think that if colleges could have a full season, I think it's in their best interest to play through the season, even in the uncertainty of doing that, because they can improve their draft stock. More people can take a look and see what they're able to do on the field.
So you mentioned two key words: skill and talent, and that's why we got Tevin on today. When I look at a player like Tevin, the skill, the talent, put in the hard work, had a good pro day. You're looking at the future, Tevin, and of course you're still on that path, looking for that way to the NFL. A question we have for you, Tevin, is when we as professional scouts are out there and we're looking at Division II players like yourself, from your perspective as a player, what can we do better as scouts to shine a brighter light on exceptional Division II players like yourself that might not get the same type of limelight like a Division I player may get? What's your thoughts?
Well, I know one big cripple we have is D2. We don't get the same national attention, obviously, as D2. So, our names are talked about around the nation as often, and it's not like you could just turn your TV on and watch, one of our games like you would Alabama or Auburn or anything. So it's almost like you really have to be wanting to look for someone when you look into D2, because you don't have a certain name you can just go off of. And a lot of the times people want to look at stats and maybe think that will tell them the whole deal with the player. That's not always true. So I think that first, talking to the players' coaches, also actually really studying the game film and not relying too heavily on stats. I know it's a big part of everything, but just being overall scouting the whole player, just not one certain aspect.
So when you say one specific aspect, it sounds like you're referring to basically what I like to refer to as whole player concept. What that player does all over the field. What are some aspects about you as a whole person player that you would like to take the opportunity to highlight about yourself, especially to the audience and those coaches and general managers and scouts that are tuning in to R2 Sports Management here on the Extra Point? What are those things that you want to highlight about yourself to let those organizations know that you are definitely someone worthy of being on their roster?
Well, for me, one big thing I got is versatility. Especially my last year, I was able to play safety as well as corner and the nickel position. and I did pretty well with all three. And also, studying one position gets you really better at the other one. So I think that's one big thing I can bring to the team that some other guys can't. Also, I think because I'm a track guy also, so I got the speed and I'm always able to get down there with the deep balls. They had me back returning and things like that also. So from that aspect, wouldn't be too scared for me to put me on a burner guy and have me stay with him stride for stride. And also just another physical aspect. Strength wise, I've been one of the stronger guys also. So I wouldn't even though I'm not as tall as a lot of corners. You want a lot of corners to get. I can still match up against the bigger 6'3", 6'4" guys also. So I can handle myself at the line.
Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here on the Extra Point, right from the mouth of Tevin, who is basically letting these scouts and general managers and head coaches know that he has the skills and the talents and the goods to play at the next level. So I'm going to take the opportunity to throw this over to my colleagues, Robert, Jeremy, Justice. Any questions for Tevin?
Tevin, as a scout, I always like to know a little bit of background for a college player. Tell me a little bit what your recruiting looked like when you were in high school and how you ended up where you are.
Actually, coming out of high school, I was recruited by a lot of the D1 schools around area. So Fort Collins, Boulder, Wyoming, and even Utah State. But at the time when I was coming out, Fort Collins was doing pretty well. They entered the top 25, and so I was kind of like dropping off with the other universities and really focusing on them. And then, unfortunately, their coach left at the end of the season, and they brought in Bobo, and he kind of wanted to change up and bring his own recruits in. So they kind of told me that they wanted me to be a preferred walk-on. And from that, money-wise, I just couldn't do it. So Pueblo was it for me. They just won the champions. So I was like, why not? They told me they could get players to the league, and I know they're definitely big competitors. So I thought it was a great opportunity.
Thanks for sharing.
Hey, Tevin, this is Robert Parker. Just want to ask you a couple of questions from a scouting perspective. I know one of the main things you said earlier in regards to your ability on the field was versatility. So when it comes to versatility at the defensive back position, what are some of your strong attributes? Do you like to play, man press? Do you like to play off, bump and run? Like, what is your preferred techniques, and what is your favorite coverage to play?
Definitely man press. At Pueblo, we did a lot of man schemes and up in the face kind of things because we were blitzing a lot. So one of our main schemes was just stay on for that short period of time so nothing would be up and we could get the quarterback. And fortunately, that caused a lot of quarterbacks to throw out of worry, and we'd be there to make a play. So, but I also like playing zone. I love having my eyes back at the quarterback to just go up and make a play because I just have myself to go up and get the ball. But as far as everything I did definitely be man press. I like getting up in his face. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anything, Justice?
No, I'm good. I like what I hear from him. I wish him the best. I definitely hope he gets that shot. I mean, if I can, I'll try and look up some tape on him. See what I think. But I definitely wish him the best, and I hope he gets that shot. Soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Well, I will tell all of you, I got to see this guy play the game. And I will say it right here on the Extra Point. Tevin is the real deal. He has the character, he has the skills, he has the attributes. Overall, he has the talent to play at the next level. So for all of you scouts out there, for the general managers and the head coaches, take a look at Tevin Darnell. He is someone you want on your roster as a quality young man and as a quality football player. Tevin, I'm going to leave you with the last word. What do you want to tell everyone out there as you get ready to continue on your dream path to the NFL?
Shoot, just, look out for me. I'm always going to be hard at work. I just got back from the gym before I got on this call. So I'm going to be working and, look out for me. Keep looking.
Good deal. And we will do our best right here on the Extra Point with 3 professional scouts who will try our best to get your name out there, Tevin, because I think it's worth it and I think you're worth it. Thanks for coming on the Extra Point tonight, Tevin. Ladies and gentlemen, Tevin Darnell from Colorado State University, Pueblo, defensive back on the path to the NFL. Devin, thanks for joining us tonight, and we will stay in touch. Have a great one, Tevin.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Peace out, guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, that was Tevin Darnell. Once again, fine young man who is trying to work his way in the NFL and get on that path. We will keep this going, ladies and gentlemen. We have another guest who we are bringing on to the Extra Point, and that individual, as I mentioned before, is Eric Jones, radio host from E504 out of Louisiana. Eric, how are we doing today, my friend?
Man, I'm good. Y'all can hear me over there?
Yep, we got you loud and clear.
Yep. All right. What's going on, Nut? Been a long time no see, man.
Well, hey, Eric, today, as you are on the Extra Point, I'm glad we are finally able to make this happen. You are also joined by 3 football scouts. We got Robert Parker out of New Jersey, Jeremy Coleman out of Indiana, and Justice Gordon out of New York. So that's who is joining you today, Eric. Once again, I love what you're doing in Louisiana, the social consciousness that you're bringing about there is phenomenal, because I think it's people like you that keep the conscience going. But today on the Extra Point, we are going to be talking about football. And a question I have for you right out of the gate, Eric. Look, we got COVID rampant. Louisiana at one point was one of the highest labeled states with COVID cases. But yet the SEC is still moving on with a season. So I don't know. Tell me, Big E, should the SEC be moving on with a season in the midst of this pandemic?
So before I get into that, man, I want to shout out Robert, Jeremy, and Justice. It's a pleasure to meet you guys. Pleasure to meet you. Yes, sir. So, man, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. First of all, excuse my COVID look. It's my house. I'm actually in the process of relocating to Atlanta next weekend. So it's kind of messed up. But, man, my take on that, the SEC is one of the richest conferences in the NCAA, and I think they can afford to miss this season, because by Louisiana being one of the hottest states right now, we're still in it. I don't know if y'all know, we are still hot. Our numbers are doing this. I think they can chill out. I really think they'll be all right. They'll be just fine if they set out 1 year, because every day you're hearing about a player that's testing positive every day. And I watch SportsCenter and First Take and all that good stuff every day. And you're hearing this every day. I think they can afford to just relax. They see, my mom at HBCU, we chilling until spring, Southern University. So, I think they can afford it.
Well, I think a lot of people may feel the same way, Eric, that, hey, maybe, we just go ahead and call this season a wash, not because we don't want to, pad our pockets, but for the safety of the players. But to your point, the SEC is a powerhouse. Now, I think we can all attest to this. I don't think you find many empty SEC stadiums. When those stadiums are packed, they are packed. So, to me, Jeremy, what happens? You get an Alabama game, stadium is packed, and the COVID numbers tend to go up. I think one of the things we have to really consider is how do we reverse course if numbers go up during the season? What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's worth pointing out that it isn't like there's going to be 110,000 fans packed into Bryant-Denny at any point this fall. I think their plan was to go with about 20%. So, you've got roughly, 25,000 people. You can spread out pretty well. There's a reason why there's NFL teams that plan on having fans in stadiums is because they feel like they have a plan that will work. If the SEC feels like they can put in a plan that will work for schools having fans in stadiums, and some I don't even think are planning on having fans, I think there's a reason why you feel like football could work. And I feel like you owe it to the players and the coaches, this is their livelihoods on the lines to at least attempt a season. And if things do go south, then I think the conference should bail on a full football season, but I do think they should give it a try at the least.
So, I'm going to tie your comments, Jeremy, back to Big E, Eric Jones, radio host of E504. Does this really boil down to economics? Is it about economics, or is it about giving players the opportunity to continue their careers, or is it a mix of both? What's your take down there, Big E? Yep, you're there.
Hello. Okay. As far as economic, man, I'm born and raised in Louisiana, left here for about 20 years, living in Atlanta. But if anybody follows LSU football, on any given Saturday, that stadium that holds 100 and they just added on a new addition, it's like 170,000 almost now, 172 I think it is. That's just inside. We have to also the outside of the stadium. To me, I'm gonna say it. They can afford to miss a season. I'm more concerned about health than the bottom line. Of course, Rooney, we have family that plays football. A couple of my cousins came out of LSU. Howard Green, Jarvis Green, Skylar Green. That's all of my first cousins. All came out of LSU. And so it's more than football to me. It's about the well-being of my family. Economics, they good on that, man. LSU is a very, very, very well-off university. I don't know. I don't agree with the economic part of it, man. I think they need to put health in people's livelihood, put the livelihood of monetary aside, and think about it going forward. Health.
So you mentioned health. So I'm gonna kick over to Robert and Justice. So we got Justice in New York, of course, and we got Robert in Jersey. And from my understanding right now, a lot of the stadiums out in that direction, either there's not going to be any fans that are allowed, or they're are going to have maybe a 20% that's going to take place. Is this an economic thing, or from your guys' perspective, especially New York? New York, one of the hardest hits in the nation. Is this a case where we go ahead and say, hey, let's call it quits for this season? Justice, what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I think, the organizations in New York right now, they're taking the economics approach. I know the Jets and the Giants have eliminated fans from their stadiums. I know Rutgers just eliminated fans from their stadiums. So I think they're taking the early approach, the economic approach, But I mean, everything recently, New York is doing very well. We've managed to get our numbers down quite substantially, actually. And I could see, if 2 or 3 weeks of the season go by, and there's limited positive tests in the league, I could definitely see the Jets and the Giants switching over and allowing 20-25% in to add that extra revenue on the back end. I could definitely see that. But I mean, it's if it was me personally, I would just cut out fans entirely. Take the safe route. I know the NFL is talking about pumping in crowd noise like the NBA is doing in the MLB. That's a good option. I would just take the safe route. There's so many health issues to worry about with COVID-19, and that's what I would do if I was in that position.
So let's kick that over from New York over to New Jersey. What's your take, Robert?
Well, yeah, Roland, just like Justice said, New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, the tri-state area was one of the, regions that got hit heavy with the whole pandemic. Just like Justice says, we got our numbers down substantially low. However, our governor decided that it was not safe enough to have fans in the stands, at MetLife Stadium. So that means no fans in the stands for the Giants and the Jets. Just like he mentioned with Rutgers as well. However, I think I do agree with the sentiment when it comes to the whole economic issue. When you look at the NFL and you ask the question, is it health or is it economics? And in regards to the NFL, it's purely economics when it comes to the NFL. Like that's the engine that's never going to stop. They're the big railroad, the choo-choo train that's going to run you off the tracks. However, when you come to the NCAA, I think you have to, side on the era of the student athlete in regards to, the health, safety, and welfare of the athlete. If the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 can, move forward and protect the athletes and have a season, they can do it. But at the end of the day, I think we have to look at the health and safety of the student athlete, because at the end of the day, they're not getting compensated for it, unlike NFL athletes where they are getting compensated for it. So it's definitely a risk and loss amongst the two when you're looking at the student athlete in college versus the NFL athlete who is a professional and working on a pro level.
Hey, Robert, you touched on a very unique point, and I totally concur with you. There is a difference. There is a significant difference. One is getting paid, the other one is not. So at some point, you have to really start looking at family dynamics, personal dynamics, future long enduring health dynamics. So I definitely concur with you. Hey, Big E, I'm going to switch gears just for a second. I might catch you off guard with this question, but the panel here, roughly around episode 2 and 3, we talked about Colin Kaepernick. We talked about the social and civil unrest in the nation. But we also talked about Drew Brees and what had transpired down in New Orleans with some of the comments that he made. He has since come around to make some statements about understanding the current social climate. As a Louisiana member yourself, as a fan, what's your take on what happened with Drew?
So, I don't think a lot of people realize, but in 2016, Drew spoke on the flag issue. In 2016, he said that he wasn't going to kneel for the flag. And, man, I'm a realist, and I see it from both angles. Nobody said anything. It kind of went unnoticed. It kind of went under the radar, and I'm a fan, so, die hard. And I remember when he said that, he took that stance about the flag, doing the whole Kaepernick thing and all of that. So here we are, fast forward to 2020, and he makes his comment about the flag again. His grandfather, so on and so forth. What people got to understand is that you didn't cut up in 2016 when he said you didn't act a fool, you didn't protest, you didn't do this. We didn't do that. Now, because of everything that's going on now in society, right now, you notice that. Now you got a problem with it. I mean, I keep it 100. You know, I'm I keep it 100, and right is right, wrong is wrong. Because of what's going on now, everybody got something to say. He said it in 16. Nobody said nothing. Went on and had a damn good season in 16. Nobody said nothing. But the minute, we have all this social injustice and everything going on, which I'm head first in it. I'm with that. Don't use this to attack this man for what he said 4 years ago and nobody said anything.
Hey.
That's his stance. That's what he believed in. He's not going to kneel for. But let's get this clear. It's not about the flag. It's never been about the flag. Everybody missing the point. It's never been about the flag. It's about black men, black women, black females killed by the hands of police. I live in La Place now, but I'm about 25 minutes from Baton Rouge. And I knew Elton Sterling. Elton Sterling is related to Kendall, brother Kendall Simon from down your way, Rona.
Yeah.
So we saw what happened. I have the live video.
I think we lost Big E audio. Oh, we got you back.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you loud and clear. Keep going there, Big E. All right, I think we lost Big E audio and video there. So, he makes a great point about Drew Brees. I know we've already talked about that on the episode, but, his point is well taken. Hey, you didn't say anything in 16. Why wrap up the same comment into a new argument in 2020? So what I would like to do right now, in the previous episode, we talked about, what is it, Jeremy? Going for 2? Are we going for 2? So let's take the opportunity right now to go for 2. And here's how we're going to go for 2 on today's episode of The Extra Point. Let's talk about Washington, because that's their name, Washington. And maybe we'll see, is there potentially a quarterback controversy on the horizon? I don't know. What do you guys think there, Justice? You think Alex has a stake to that claim as the quarterback for Washington?
Well, first and foremost, I want to commend Alex Smith. I mean, the injury he went down with, I mean, that's next to impossible to come back from. I mean, if I saw the documentary on it, I don't know if anyone else has. I know some people have, but I know his leg got infected and he was close to dying, which is pretty incredible. And coming back and play football, so first and foremost, I want to praise Alex Smith for coming back, for working hard, and coming back to doing what he loves. But to quote Allen Iverson real quick, we're talking about practice. We're talking about.
No, he did not. Did he just bring that to the extra point? He just talked about practice on the extra point, ladies and gentlemen. Keep going, Justice. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's great he came back, but in practice and training camp, you can't really hit the quarterback. And, I'm just worried, in a full game, in a real game, he's a mobile QB. He likes to move around a lot. I'm scared to see him, scramble out of the pocket and, get scorched by a 360-pound lineman, and watch his, leg twist up or something like that. That's something I don't want to see. I don't know how mobile he is now with his injury. I'm not sure how mobile he can be. The team right now, it's young. We got Scary Terry on the outside. You got arguably the best defensive line in the league. I think it's between them and the 49ers. That's another argument for another day. But, it's a young team. Dwayne Haskins, he kind of got thrown in, when they really didn't believe in Case last year. I would roll out Dwayne Haskins. See what you have in him. This organization, it's in their second regime in 2 years. They don't really know what they have with him. Roll him out, see what you got with him. If you don't like him, throw in Alex Smith for the last half of the year and, draft a quarterback in 2021. But, my opinion, roll out Haskins, give him a shot, let him prepare and, see what you have in him first.
All right. Going for 2 in Jersey. Let's go for 2 in Jersey. Robert, do you agree with Justice?
In regards to no quarterback controversy, I think I lean with Justice in that regards. And the reason why I say that is if we look at injuries, some of the gruesome injuries, whether it's NBA, whether it's NFL, whether it's baseball, I think one of the main things we look at after the gruesome injury is, the mental aspect of it. So we have players go down with the torn Achilles. We have a player who goes down with the ACL injury. And one of the main things we look at and we harp on is the mental aspect. Can they get back? So I think one of the things about Alex Smith, just like Justin says, I commend him and I give him a standing ovation. And, just his fortitude and his willingness to come back and try to play. He gets all of my respect for that. However, one of the things that I'm concerned about is, Alex Smith's safety. I mean, football is a violent game, and it's kind of like he had a gruesome injury. So you want to know if he can get back to that shape where he can protect himself in the pocket. So I think, and I have to see him protect himself in the pocket and to scramble a little bit in order to say it's a quarterback controversy. So with that being said, you have Dwayne Haskins. Just like Justin said, you roll him out there. He has weapons. He has a defense. I know he lost a couple of running backs, this offseason for various reasons. You have the Darius Guice situation out there. Bryce Love from Stanford. Will he be able to step up? We have an older Adrian Peterson who's aging. So I think, you're going to have that quarterback to have to stand in the pocket and have to make plays with his feet. And right now, I just don't think Alex Smith can get that done in the condition that he's in.
Oh, wow. Wow. Let's go for 2 in Indiana. Jeremy, are you in or are you out on the whole Alex thought process in Washington?
Well, I definitely think there's going to be a controversy. You guys say there might not be a controversy today, but there were some tweets today from practice saying that if you weren't Alex Smith, you did not want to be the quarterback on the field. Apparently, he looked amazing, on the practice field. And I think what one thing you guys forget is that Alex Smith is a veteran in this league, and he knows how to win. That's the big thing. And I think you also have to remember Ron Rivera is brand new to this team, and he did not draft Dwayne Haskins. He has no ships tied to that sail, so to say. So who's to say he's not thinking that Haskins is his long-term guy anyway? I think that's something to be worth said there. Wow. But, I mean, Alex Smith, arguably until going down, 2 years ago, was playing some of the best football of his career. And I know you guys point to whether he can do it physically. I remember some years in San Francisco where he was getting sacked 50 times a year. He's a tough quarterback. He can pick up an offense. That's the other thing right now. Ron Rivera and staff have brought a new offense in this year. So arguably both quarterbacks should be on the same page. Who's going to pick it up quicker and who's going to execute it better? I'm going to lean with the veteran. A guy who while in San Francisco, I think he was in San Francisco like 6 years, had 6 different offensive coordinators. If there's anyone who can pick up a playbook, it's Alex Smith. He's a veteran. He still has the talent, and I think he'll surprise a lot of people. Comeback story of the year if he ends up starting, and playing most of the year. I think it'll be impossible not to give him the award. I mean, when I saw the leg injury, oh my God, that picture was not pretty at all. And I generally have a very strong stomach for that type of thing. That was one of the scarier pictures I've ever seen on an athlete before. So, I mean, yeah, I'm all in on the Alex Smith. Could definitely make this a controversy in Washington.
Well,
I just want to comment quickly.
Go ahead, Justice.
Sorry, Roland. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking, who's the better quarterback, obviously Alex Smith. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. I get that. But,
so what
also,
talking about?
But no, well, what you said about what you said about Dwayne Haskins being in his second year and you don't really know what you have in him. They already tried the veteran thing with Case Keenum last year. They're in their second regime right now. I mean, the last thing you want to do is hold on to him, set him on the bench for another year, and Alex Smith may be going next year or the year after that, and come 2021, you don't know what you have in Dwayne Haskins still. I mean, do you draft a quarterback? Do you trade him? I think, you roll him out for the start of the year. He's got the time to prep for everything. If he's losing games, throw Alex Smith in, yeah. But I think you got to see what you have in Dwayne Haskins first.
I mean, I thought he finished the year on a strong note. I thought you saw some growth and development from Dwayne Haskins. But I'll be honest, I was never a big fan of him coming out. That's just me.
Neither was I.
Yeah, so I mean, I just don't think it's unthinkable to think if Alex Smith is out there and showing that he can make plays and he's got a better grasp of things, I don't think it's unreal for Ron Rivera and staff to go with the proven veteran when, they're trying. I understand they're trying to change an entire culture there, from team name to new coach, they just hired Jason Wright, the first African-American team president in their history. I mean, they're trying to do big things on a big-time scale. I think one thing that might help them right now is a team that can help, that is a guy like Alex Smith who could help them win now, and help make that transition a little easier.
Well, I definitely hear you guys. I would tend to agree in the notion that, do I believe there's going to be a quarterback controversy? I will say this. Between the quarterbacks, the answer is no. I think the controversy will be actually between the quarterbacks and the head coach. The head coach is going to have to plant his flag and state who he's going to ride with. So if he is going to ride with Haskins, but yet, and practice, if Alex is your guy who's really showcasing you talent, and yet you go with a Haskins, this is the dynamics that I believe you enter in as a head coach. So I think when we say if there's going to be any controversy, I don't believe between the quarterbacks. I think the controversy is going to come once the head coach makes the decision to say, I am going with X player. Now, how do you effectively integrate the other player to say, hey, I need you to support Alex. I need you to support Dwayne, educate him, bring him along. Vice versa. Hey, Haskins, I need you to sit on the bench and learn from Alex, even though he's been out for a while. I need you to learn from him because he's a proven winner and a tough guy in the league. Can both of these players, especially that competitive nature and juice, can they both sit back and say to themselves, we are willing to do what's best for the organization? To Jeremy's point, I think that is critical because Washington is doing so much right now. The last thing that they need is a quarterback controversy. You've already changed the name and you're looking at, bringing the new name in with the new season, right? Right now you got a new head coach. You got the first black president. You have a lot going on that is a positive. So if I'm Rivera, I get this nailed down right now. I don't wait because I don't need that distraction as a head coach while my executive office is doing some phenomenal things to move the team into the future. So, look, guys, it's been great today. We do have a question for Eric before we leave off. Eric, we don't want to leave you out. We know you're one of the top fans out there. A question that Eric has, and we'll give you a minute here, Eric. He says Nick Bosa had to clean up his social media knowing San Fran was the likely destination. Do you guys think players should be on social media in college or the pros? All right, we'll go quickly around the room. Robert, social media for players or not?
I would say yes, but however, I think it's up to each individual. If you ask me, Roland, some guys out there are just more mature than others, and some guys are not. We had an incident earlier in the draft process with Nick Fromm out of Buffalo, where he, sent a couple text messages, to a female friend, and she kind of put him on blast for it. So I think I wouldn't say more so with social media. Just in general, I just think, these student athletes moving forward, or just athletes in general, needs to be more, aware of what they're putting out there, especially in this PC culture that we living in today. So I think you can be active on social media, but I think you can do it in a tasteful way. So I wouldn't say, no social media at all for players. But I think certain players need to be monitored a little bit, if you ask me, though, on the social media.
All right. Swing over to Indiana. Jeremy, social media or not?
Well, I'm going to go with this stance. I do think players should be allowed to, have their own voice. Social media is the way they get it done these days, especially in college. These kids are brought up thinking, oh, I've got to text it, or I've got to tweet, every thought and whatnot. But I think Robert said the most important thing there is you have to show a certain level of maturity, because the internet is forever. We can go back years and find out what, we posted on Facebook, put on Twitter, all this stuff. I mean, we saw what happened when it happened with Laramie Tunsil, in his draft stock, when the picture of him with the, the mask and the bong came out. I mean, that definitely hurt his stock a little bit for him to fall all the way down to Miami at the time. You don't want that coming back and biting you, in the future, when it really matters. So my biggest thing is, yes, I think it'd be impossible to police social media for one. That you can't just force someone not to do it. You can't be on 24/7. I think the biggest thing that you do is you educate them on what is appropriate for social media and what is not. We see a lot of stuff on social media that is not appropriate, coming from players and stuff. And it's like, this is where they could use that guiding hand to say, look, maybe you shouldn't post that. Be cognizant of what you're putting on there and show, and like Robert said, show some level of maturity. I think that's the biggest thing my message would be to players with social media. And use it for a good cause if you can.
All right. Swinging over to New York. Justice, give us your take. Social media or not?
Yeah, I'd have to reluctantly say yes. Just like Robert and Jeremy said, it comes down to maturity. I was going to mention Laramie Tunsil. Jeremy mentioned him. But you look at Laramie Tunsil, Josh Allen, Jake Fromm from this past year, the old text messages, it definitely can, affect the player negatively if you're not mature enough. But, I look at the other side, like a guy like Tevin, we just had on the show, with a D2 player. Social media is a great place to, get your tape out there for a small school player, to get your name out there. So I see it from both sides. I think, it definitely comes down to maturity. But, I think players definitely should have social media.
All right, I'll round it off. Yes, players should have social media, in my opinion. But when it comes to the organization, code of conduct. Infuse a culture with a code of conduct so players fully are aware of the do's and don'ts. There's a lot of positive that you can use the social media platform for. To your very point, Justice, players like Devin can highlight their abilities and definitely make a statement for themselves through social media, whether that's Facebook, whether that's Twitter, Instagram. Maybe they want to put a small video about them working out on the field. So I totally agree. Social media is a good thing, but I put this back to the organizations. What is your code of conduct? What is your expectations? Set the foundation up front. Let the players know the do's and the don'ts, the left and right boundaries, guide and facilitate that process. And hey, if someone goes outside those boundaries, then they get disciplined accordingly. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am beyond thrilled with this episode because we've had a phenomenal time talking about some great topics. Once again, thanks to our special guest on episode 10, Tevin Donnell out of Colorado, and Eric Big E Jones out of Louisiana, radio host of E504. Thanks for joining us today. As always, Robert, Jeremy, and Justice, thanks for being with me on this journey. This is phenomenal. I'm happy we made it to episode 10. I'm looking forward to greater things beyond episode 10. To everyone out there, have a great week. You are joining us on The Extra Point. Have a great week.